So as you can see, we have the completed graph. And it looks a lot different than what we would have expected and a lot different than what we've seen before. So from our graph, we see that basically the data is coming down. So remember, you always read a graph from left to right. So left to right, this graph, as the total price increases, the number of customers that want to come decreases. All right? Now, the first thing that you'd probably think to do would be to connect the coordinates. However, we can't. And I'm not going to say the reason why. I'm going to basically ask that as a question in class. All right? But I'm telling you that we can't. So the only question is, why can't we? Which variable is throwing it off, or are both variables throwing it off? All right. So, part C. Based on your graph, what price do you think the tour operator should charge, and explain? All right. So what we want to really do is look at what is basically happening. If we charge a low price, so say of the very first point that we come to, which is $150, 76 customers. That's a lot of people to take on a tour, and $150 really isn't that much money. Okay? So you have to start thinking about tour size and price. Now, a decent number of people may be about 26. I don't know. It's all a matter of how you're looking at it. We have 5 people. That's 26 bikers. So that would be about 5 people each. Okay? So each person is responsible for about 5 people. All right? That's 26 bikes that you have to get. That's a good amount of bikes. That's a good amount of people that you have to put into a hotel and everything else, and get sleeping bags and all that other stuff. So there's a lot of things that we take into account. So we may want to think about the 526, which is this point right here. Now some of you might say, well, why go that low? We can probably go a little bit higher. Whatever the explanation is, or whichever coordinate you pick, just explain why. Okay? But one of the things that I'm going to basically ask you is, so let's say you pick a price of $350. We'll get 59 people at $350. Okay? That's fine, but explain, you have to also get into the fact of how we're going to handle 59 people. And it's $350, a lot of money. So that's my explanation at $500 for 26. I think that's reasonable. That's a lot of money to bring in per person, and that's 26 people. Okay? So you need to basically come up with your own explanation as to why you're picking which one you pick. So I just gave you an example of what I would pick and my reason why. All right, part D. D1. The number of people who say they would take the tour depends on the price. How does the number of potential customers change as the price increases? So as the price increases, they're basically asking you to look at the graph. All right, and we just kind of discussed this. As the price increases, the number of customers goes down. So the higher the price, the less customers that are going to show up, which makes sense. If something is really, really cheap, you're going to get a lot of people to do it, or a lot of people to show up or buy it. So the higher your price, the less people. So that's all that they're looking for in D1. D2, how is the change in the number of potential customers shown in the table? All right, so in the table, the way that this table is set up, the number of customers starts out high, and then it goes down as the price increases, which is, so they're kind of working in opposite. So as the price goes up, the number of customers goes down. All right, so it's as one goes up, the other one goes down. All right, so they're kind of working in the opposite direction. All right, and how was it changed in the number of potential customers shown in the table? And how is it shown in the graph? All right, so that kind of takes care of, we kind of answered the other question beforehand. The other thing that they want you to look at is, let me erase some of this to get a little bit more specific. This only changes by 2 customers. This changes by 3. This changes by 6. Okay? And they're asking you to look at that as well. All right? So That's the other thing that I want you to look at. I'm not going to finish it off, but I want you to look at that change as well and tell me what do you see happening, okay? As the price drops $50 each time, what is happening to the number of customers? Is there a pattern to it, or is it just random, okay? In the graph, you can see that's going to be a little bit harder to see because you don't know exactly what the points are. So you have to kind of estimate, all right? But it looks like from the graph that it's changing about the same amount. However, in the beginning, it's a small change, okay? And I'm just looking at the bumps. Then it starts to get a little bit more. Then spaced out a little bit more. So as my price increases, the space between one coordinate and the next is getting further and further apart. Okay, so that would be another way that you can look at this information. All right. And the last thing, D3. Describe a way to find the number of potential customers for a price between two prices in the table. For example, how can you predict the number of customers for a price of $4.25? All right. So what they're basically asking you to do, and is they're saying, what if the price is $4.25? So here's $4.20, and this point right here is going to be $4.50. So $4.25 is probably right in here. So what you'd basically do is estimate that it'll probably be about right there, all right, if this is going in a pattern. So about right there, and then that is, okay, so we know this is 45. So you're looking at about 42, 43 customers. So they just want to know, do you know how to find information on the graph? And you basically do it by finding these little estimate points and then reading over. Okay, so any point that I want to find, if I want to find out what is it at 3:30, I'd go to 3:30, come up, let me see, from here to here, if I was to make a straight line, and then we go across. Okay, it's not going to give you an exact, but you get an estimate. So that would be about 62 or 63. But that's basically what they're asking you to explain. So you have to figure out how to put that into your own words as to how we estimate using a graph and how we read data in between. Because remember, we really can't connect the points, but visually you can kind of see that I could make a straight line, okay, and then that will help me estimate. And I can only use that for estimation. Okay, again, we can't connect those coordinates, but we can use the concept of connecting just so that we can get an estimation of the different number of customers based on a price.